Once upon a time, in a cozy little town called Leek, there was a lively little boy named Ernie. Ernie was known for his boundless energy, always jumping around, and his love for animals. His best friends in the whole world were Poppy and Daisy, two golden retrievers who lived with his Auntie Claire. One sunny afternoon, Ernie was visiting his Auntie Claire. As he arrived, Auntie Claire excitedly beckoned Ernie over to the garden and exclaimed, "Look what I've got in the garden, Ernie!" To Ernie's surprise, he saw a large, strange-looking bath set up right in the middle of the lawn. Chuckling to himself, Ernie said, "I'm glad I don't have to doggy paddle outside." Auntie Claire laughed heartedly and teased, "Oh, but we're going in there tonight." Ernie's eyes widened in horror. The thought of having a bath in front of Auntie Claire's neighbours made him blush. "No way," he thought. As soon as Auntie Claire was busy in her studio, Ernie whispered his plan to Poppy and Daisy. He put on his rainbow woolen hat, quietly slipped a lead on Daisy, and with Poppy's help, they sneaked out to escape the dreaded backyard bath. Riding on Daisy like a little pony, with Poppy scampering behind, they made a beeline for freedom. However, the dogs had a different plan and darted round to the field behind Auntie Claire's house before Ernie could stop them. "No, Daisy, my home, not playtime," he cried, but it was too late. Splash! Into the puddles, the mud, and everything else that made a little boy and two dogs grubby. Suddenly, Auntie Claire appeared, slightly panicked. "Ernie, what are you doing on the field? You know it's naughty and dangerous to run off," she exclaimed. Ernie, his rainbow hat, now a sad shade of mud, protested. "I don't want to have a bath in front of your neighbours." Seeing his upset, Auntie Claire softened and chuckled. "Ernie, that's not a bath. It's a jacuzzi, a mini spa. It's warm and it has bubbles. You don't go in there nude." Realising his misunderstanding, Ernie's fear turned into curiosity. "So, I don't have to have a bath in front of your neighbours?" "No, you Wally. But you absolutely do need a bath now." Auntie Claire laughed. After a proper bath indoors, Ernie donned his trunks, and together with Auntie Claire, he experienced the magical mini spa. The water was warm, bubbly, and so delightful that Ernie never wanted to get out. And so, dear listener, Ernie learned a valuable lesson that day about trust and courage. Sometimes what we fear might just turn out to be something wonderful if we give it a chance and trust those who care for us. Good night, little dreamer. As you drift off to sleep, remember, like Ernie, to face your fears with a brave heart, and you might just find joy in the most unexpected of places. Once upon a time, in a snug little neighborhood, there lived a young raccoon named Rusco. Rusco and his large, cheerful family made their home in a bin, which might not have been grand, but it was filled with love. Despite his happy home life, Rusco faced challenges at school. He was often teased by other young raccoons, particularly about his family's unconventional house. This made Rusco feel embarrassed and sad. One day, feeling particularly down, Rusco confided in his friend Rufus. Rufus was kind-hearted and lived in a big, beautiful house. He listened to Rusco's woes and invited him over for dinner, hoping to cheer him up. As they enjoyed their meal, Rusco sighed and said, I wish my family had a big house like yours. Then I wouldn't get teased at school. Rufus shrugged his shoulders and asked, Why does it matter? Rusco replied, Well, if I lived in a house like yours, I'd have lots of friends, and no one would tease me. Curious, Rufus took Rusco to his backyard and pointed to a hole in the fence. Peek through there, he suggested. Rusco peered through the gap and saw, to his surprise, his bully from school, sitting alone in a beautiful garden, but looking very sad. Rusco was shocked. He had always assumed that a big house meant a lot of friends and happiness. Rufus chuckled softly and explained, Rusco, having a big house doesn't make you happy, popular. Being a nice person does. That's why your family is so big and happy, even in that bin. Rusco thought about Rufus's words all the way home. When he arrived, he looked at his bustling, joyful family, all snugly fitted inside their bin. With a new understanding, he hugged each one of them tightly, his heart swelling with pride. And so, dear listener, Rusco learned an important lesson about happiness and friendship. It isn't where you live that matters, but how you treat others and the love you share. Good night, little dreamer. As you nestle into your bed, remember that happiness comes from being kind and loving, just like Rusco and his family. There really is no place like home. Sleep tight and dream of the joy that kindness brings. Once upon a time, in a vibrant neighborhood filled with the laughter of children, there lived a boy named Evan. Evan had an unbridled passion for something quite peculiar: bubblegum. He loved its sweet taste, the way it stretched, and most of all, the fun of blowing bubbles. One sunny afternoon, while playing with his friends in the park, Evan was dared to blow the biggest bubble ever. Always ready for a challenge, Evan grinned, popped a full stick of gum into his mouth, and began to chew. He chewed and chewed, his jaw aching with effort, until he felt it was time. Taking a deep breath, Evan blew with all his might. A bubble began to form, growing larger and larger, much to the amazement of his friends. But the bubble didn't stop growing. It kept getting bigger and bigger until, to Evan's horror, it engulfed his friends, sticking them to its gooey surface. Panic-stricken and unable to shout for help with the massive bubble stuck to his face, Evan realised there was only one solution. They had to pop the bubble. Bracing themselves, they managed to burst the bubble with a loud, releasing Evan's friends. However, they were now covered head to toe in sticky bubblegum. Laughing amidst the mess, they realised maybe they shouldn't have attempted such a silly dare. But it was a lesson learned in the most hilarious way possible. And so, dear listener, Evan and his friends learned that sometimes it's best to think before leaping into a challenge, especially one that can end in a sticky situation. Good night, little dreamer. As you close your eyes and drift off to sleep, remember the adventure of Bubblegum Boy and his friends, and how they found laughter in their bubblegum-covered predicament. May your dreams be sweet, and your challenges always end with a smile. Sweet dreams, until the morning light. Once upon a time, in a lush green forest, brimming with life and laughter, there lived a young snake with an unusual name and an even more unusual hobby. This snake was named Noodle, and unlike other snakes who spent their days basking in the sun or slithering quietly through the underbrush, Noodle had a passion for performing stunts. What made Noodle truly stand out, however, was not just his daring nature, but the tiny helmet he wore on his head. Noodle knew the importance of safety, and he never attempted a stunt without making sure he was protected. His friends, a collection of various forest creatures, would gather around, eyes wide with anticipation, as Noodle prepared for his next performance. One day, Noodle decided to attempt his most ambitious stunt yet: a leap over a row of prickly bushes, aiming to land smoothly on a soft pile of leaves. Before attempting the leap, Noodle inspected his helmet, checked the wind direction, and even practiced his landing technique to ensure everything was as safe as possible. With a flick of his tail, Noodle launched into the air, over the bushes, and landed perfectly on the leaves, to the cheers and applause of his friends. This stunt was talked about for days, and Noodle's reputation as a safety-conscious performer began to grow. As time passed, Noodle's stunts became more elaborate, and his audience grew larger. Word of his performances spread far and wide, catching the attention of a movie director who was searching for a unique talent for his next big adventure film. Noodle was invited to star in the movie, performing daring stunts that amazed audiences worldwide. However, what truly set Noodle apart was not just his bravery, but his unwavering commitment to safety. He became known as the Danger Noodle, the heroic snake who could perform the most dangerous stunts in the safest way possible. Noodle's fame soared, but he remained humble and dedicated to promoting safety. He knew that his success was not just due to his daring nature, but to his careful planning and protective measures. He became a role model for young animals everywhere, teaching them that being brave doesn't mean being reckless. As Noodle's movies became blockbusters, fans would watch in awe, knowing that the incredible stunts were performed not by special effects, but by a real snake who had mastered the art of safe stunt performance. So the next time you see a heroic snake in a movie, that may just be the Danger Noodle. And so, dear listener, Noodle's story teaches us the importance of being cautious and prepared. Whether you're attempting a daring feat or facing the challenges of everyday life, remember that safety always comes first. Good night, little dreamer. As you venture into your dreams, imagine the exciting but safe adventures you can have, just like Noodle. May your dreams be filled with heroic deeds and the wisdom to tackle them safely. Remember, the bravest heroes are those who look after themselves and others. Once upon a time, in a small town, cradled by the soft whispers of the wind and the vast open skies, there lived a curious girl named Lottie. Lottie was known for her inquisitive nature and her insatiable thirst for discovering the unknown. One sunny afternoon, her Uncle Jim, an amateur astronomer, arrived for a visit. He brought with him an old, yet finely maintained telescope, a treasure he had cherished for many years. "Lottie," he said, his eyes twinkling with excitement, "this was my window to the universe, and now I want it to be yours. The wonders it reveals at night are almost magical." Gratefully, Lottie accepted the telescope. She couldn't wait to explore the skies and see the world in a way she never had before. During the day, she hastily set it up by her bedroom window, the same window through which she had watched countless sunrises and sunsets. With great enthusiasm, Lottie peered through the telescope during the daytime. However, to her disappointment, all she could see were the same old trees, the familiar rooftops, and the quiet streets of her town, only much closer. Day after day, her initial excitement waned as the sights captured by the telescope failed to ignite her imagination. "It's just the same old view, only bigger," she sighed, feeling let down. As the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, Uncle Jim encouraged her. "Why not try looking at the sky tonight, Lottie?" Puzzled, Lottie looked out of her window, the streetlights flickering on, one by one. "But Uncle Jim, it's dark. I won't see anything." Uncle Jim gave Lottie a wink. "Trust me." As night covered her town, Lottie sighed and adjusted the telescope, pointing it directly towards the deep, dark sky. But what she saw took her breath away. The night sky, a canvas of black, was sprinkled with countless twinkling stars. It was as if she uncovered a hidden jewel that had been invisible to the naked eye. Each star she focused on seemed to tell its own silent story. She marveled at the constellations, tracing their shapes with her fingers against the sky as if she could feel their ancient histories. The moon, with its craggy surface, looked close enough to touch, its craters and plains beautifully detailed through her lens. Throughout the night, Lottie moved her telescope across the sky, discovering the creamy band of the Milky Way, the bright sparkle of Venus, and the distant, mysterious orb of Jupiter with its 4 major moons, parading around it like loyal subjects around a king. Her heart swelled with joy, and her mind raced with questions and the possibilities of the universe. Each celestial body she observed made her feel a connection to something larger than life, something profoundly magical and awe-inspiring. "Uncle Jim!" she exclaimed the next morning, her eyes bright with wonder.
The night sky is incredible through this telescope. I saw the Milky Way, planets, and so many stars. It's like a whole new world.
Uncle Jim smiled, his heart full seeing her newfound passion. The universe is vast, Lottie. Each star could be a sun to another world. Who knows what mysteries they hold? Keep watching and keep wondering. Lottie spent every clear night that followed with her eyes glued to the telescope. She recorded her observations in a notebook, sketching the constellations, noting the phases of the moon, and charting the planets' movements. She shared her findings with her friends at school, igniting a spark of interest in them too. And so, dear listener, Lottie's story teaches us about the beauty and wonder of looking beyond our immediate surroundings and discovering the vastness of the universe. It reminds us that sometimes patience and a different perspective can reveal the true magic around us. Good night, little dreamer. As you drift off to sleep, imagine the wonders that await you in the stars above. May your dreams be as boundless as the night sky and filled with the beauty of the cosmos. Remember, just like Stargazer Lottie, you too can explore the mysteries of the universe, one star at a time. Once upon a time, in a cozy little house on Maple Street, there lived a boy named Ethan, who was afraid of the dark. As soon as the sun would set and the rooms filled with shadows, Ethan's heart would race with fear. His imagination turned every creak and whisper into lurking monsters and eerie sounds. To help him conquer his fears, Ethan's parents gave him a nightlight, a small beacon of warmth with a soft golden glow. It sat by his bedside, casting gentle light across his room. However, even with the nightlight, Ethan found little comfort. He would lie awake, staring at the shadows dancing across the hallway from his room. The nightlight seemed only to cast more shapes on the walls, and his fear grew. One particularly restless night, as Ethan lay in bed, frozen by his fear, something extraordinary happened. The nightlight began to flicker and change shapes. At first, Ethan rubbed his eyes in disbelief. But what happened next was truly magical. The nightlight came to life.
Good evening, Ethan,
the nightlight said in a warm, soothing voice. Startled, yet intrigued, Ethan responded hesitantly at first.
Hello? I'm here to show you something wonderful,
replied the nightlight. Suddenly, the nightlight shone brighter than it had before and invited Ethan to hold his hand up to its glow.
Ethan raised his arms slowly against the nightlight, and suddenly his hands cast their own shadows on the wall. Together, they made birds, dogs, and even a dragon, all from Ethan's own shadows. Ethan giggled as his fears began to melt away with each new shape. "See, Ethan," the nightlight explained. "Shadows are not to be feared. They are stories we tell on the walls, dreams we paint in the dark. They are part of our imagination, just like the stories you love to read." Energized by this new game, Ethan spent the night playing with his shadows, casting tales of bravery and adventure. The once menacing shadows of the hallway now hosted their playful theatre. As the hours passed, Ethan's fear subsided, replaced by a newfound joy and curiosity. As dawn approached, the nightlight spoke once more. "Remember, Ethan, just as stars need the night to shine, our fears need understanding to fade away. Shadows can't hurt you. They are your friends, helping you create wonderful stories." Ethan yawned sleepily after a night filled with unexpected fun. "Thank you," he whispered as he drifted off to sleep, the nightlight's glow dimming into the coming morning. When he woke up, the nightlight was just a nightlight once again. There was no voice, no moving shadows, just its steady, comforting glow. Ethan pondered if it had all been a dream. But he felt different, braver, somehow. That night, and every night thereafter, Ethan slept peacefully, no longer afraid of the dark. And so, dear listener, Ethan learned that shadows are not foes, but friends, who animate our nights with stories and dreams. They are the playful whispers of our imagination, asking us to see the world differently. Good night, little dreamer. As you lay in bed tonight, may you remember Ethan's journey with his friendly shadows. Let the night embrace you with its serene darkness, for it's just another canvas where your dreams can play. Sleep well, knowing that the night and its shadows are here to cradle you into a world of delightful dreams. Once upon a time, in a quaint little neighbourhood, lined with well-kept houses and manicured gardens, there lived an old man named Bill. Bill was the oldest resident on his street, known for his gentle smile and a garden that was wildly different from the others. Unlike the neat rows of tulips and roses in his neighbours' yards, Bill's garden was a riot of green in every shape and form, teeming with plants
that others hastily labelled as weeds. One sunny morning, a group of neighbours gathered and approached Bill's front gate with furrowed brows. They were polite but firm, suggesting that Bill should tidy up his garden. "The weeds look horrendous, Bill," they said. "It ruins the view of our lovely street." Bill, leaning on his rake, listened quietly and then nodded slowly. "I hear what you're saying," he responded with a thoughtful look. "Give me 4 days, and I'll consider your request." The neighbours, puzzled but patient, agreed and went on their way. Over the next 4 days, they watched curiously as Bill continued his usual routine, watering his garden and tending to his plants, but seemingly making no effort to clear out what they considered weeds. On the 5th day, the neighbours returned, ready to discuss the garden once again. However, as they rounded the corner onto Bill's street, their words caught in their throats. Where once they had seen only wild, unruly weeds, there was now a spectacular display of vibrant flowers, blooming in every colour imaginable. Bill's garden was alive with the bustling of bees and the fluttering of butterflies, more so than any other garden on the street. The neighbours approached Bill, who was quietly observing a butterfly. "Thank you for tidying up your garden, Bill. It looks wonderful," one neighbour said gratefully. Bill chuckled softly, his eyes twinkling with mirth. "I didn't do anything out of the ordinary," he admitted. "Nature took action. What you called weeds were just plants that hadn't shown their colours yet. You see a weed because you didn't plant it. I see a surprise, a gift from the earth that welcomes more life than your manicured beds." The neighbours looked around, embarrassed but enlightened. The weeds they had despised were wildflowers native to the region, attracting pollinators and beautifying the once bland street with bursts of life and colour. One by one, they began to understand Bill's wisdom. A weed was only a weed by one definition, but to Bill, and now to them, it represented a surprise, a chance to embrace the unexpected beauty of nature. And so, dear listener, Bill taught everyone on his street a valuable lesson about perspective and patience. Not all unplanned things are unwelcome. Sometimes they bring unexpected joy and beauty into our lives. Good night, little dreamer. As you drift off to sleep, think of Bill's garden, a place where every plant, no matter its name, is cherished for its unique beauty. May your dreams be like Bill's garden, wild and wonderful, full of surprises that delight and inspire. Sleep well, and remember, sometimes the best parts of life are the surprises we didn't plan for. Once upon a time, in a quaint village, where every cobblestone told a story and every breeze carried laughter, there lived a little girl named Eliza. Eliza was known for her boundless curiosity and impatience for the future. She always wondered what tomorrow held, eager to grow up and discover the world. One chilly autumn evening, Eliza wandered into the heart of the village fair. Her eyes wide with wonder at the bustling stalls and twinkling lights. Among the myriad attractions, a small, ornate tent caught her attention. Embroidered with stars and moons, a sign read, "Madame Marina, Fortune Teller Extraordinaire." Intrigued and hopeful to glimpse her future, Eliza entered the tent. Inside, surrounded by crystal balls and mystical charms, sat Madame Marina, a wise old woman whose eyes sparkled with knowledge of the unseen. "Welcome, dear child," she said, her voice as soft as velvet. "I hear you seek knowledge of the future." Eliza nodded eagerly, and Madame Marina handed her a small, beautifully bound book. "This is the Book of Fortunes," she explained. "It will show you the path of your life, every joy and challenge, every triumph and downfall. But be warned, knowing the future may come at a cost." Overjoyed, Eliza thanked Madame Marina and rushed home with the book. That night, under the light of her bedside lamp, she read about her future achievements, her academic successes, her dream job, her travels to distant lands, and the family she would one day have. Each page predicted a bright and successful future, and Eliza felt a rush of excitement. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, Eliza watched as each fortune came true. She aced her tests, won competitions, and made new friends, all as the book had foretold. However, with each achievement, Eliza felt less joy and more emptiness. The thrill of surprise, the wonder of the unknown had vanished, replaced by a hollow certainty. One evening, As Eliza sat watching a sunset that she knew was coming, she realized that her impatience to know the future had stolen the beauty of living in the moment. She missed the excitement of not knowing what tomorrow held, the joy of being surprised by life's little miracles. Determined to reclaim the wonder of her life, Eliza took the Book of Fortunes to the edge of the village and threw it in the river. As the book sank slowly, carried away by the gentle currents, Eliza felt a weight lift off her shoulders. And so, dear listener, Eliza learned a valuable lesson about the beauty of life's unpredictability. She went on to live every day to the fullest, experiencing joy in the unexpected twists and turns of her journey. Good night, little dreamer. As you drift off to sleep, think of Eliza and her Book of Fortunes. May you cherish the surprises each day brings and find joy not knowing what the future holds, but in discovering it one beautiful moment at a time. Sleep well, embrace the unknown, and let the magic of life's surprises fill your dreams with happiness. Once upon a time, deep in the lush jungles of a faraway land, there lived a unique tiger named Tobias. Unlike the other tigers who proudly sported stripes of orange and black, Tobias wore a sleek black tuxedo. This tuxedo, complete with a crisp white shirt and a shiny black bow tie, made him stand out from the rest of his tiger kin. The other tigers often whispered amongst themselves about Tobias's peculiar choice of attire. Why does he always wear that tuxedo instead of his beautiful stripes like the rest of us? They would murmur as they watched him stroll majestically through the jungle. Their curiosity turned to avoidance as they thought Tobias wore his tuxedo to make himself seem better than everyone else. Tobias heard their whispers and felt their stares, but he never explained himself. He simply replied, "Because I wish to do so," and continued on his way. As time passed, the other tigers began to avoid him, labeling him a snob for his unusual appearance and reserved demeanor. One day, while Tobias was resting by the riverbank, a young leopard named Lila approached him. Lila was new to the jungle and hadn't yet heard the rumors about Tobias. She saw only a tiger who looked different and interesting, and she was intrigued.
Hi, I'm Lila,
She said cheerfully.
I couldn't help but notice your suit. It's very sharp.
Tobias looked at her, surprised by her friendly tone. "Hello, Lila. I'm Tobias." "Thank you," he replied, his guard slowly coming down. Lila sat beside him, her curiosity piqued.
If you don't mind me asking, why do you wear a tuxedo?
Unlike the others, her question was genuine, without a hint of judgment. Tobias sighed, a weight lifting from his shoulders as he decided to share his story. "This tuxedo was my father's," he began. "He was a magnificent tiger, loved and respected by all. He wore this tuxedo on special occasions, and whenever he did, he seemed even more regal, if that was possible." Lila listened intently as Tobias continued. "When he went away, I began wearing his tuxedo. It makes me feel closer to him. Every time I see my reflection, it's as if I'm looking at my dad again." Moved by his story, Lila reached out and gave Tobias a gentle hug.
Tobias, your dad will always be in your heart. Tuxedo or no tuxedo. And I think you honor him beautifully,
she reassured him. From that day forward, Lila and Tobias became inseparable friends. The other tigers noticed this change and slowly began to understand Tobias's reasons. They realized that Tobias wasn't a snob. He was just a son who missed his father deeply. And so, dear listener, Tobias taught everyone in the jungle an important lesson about empathy and the reasons behind someone's choices. We all wear our memories and love in different ways, and sometimes a simple question asked with kindness can unveil the most heartfelt of stories. Good night, little dreamer. As you drift off to sleep, remember Tobias and his tuxedo, and think about the ways we all keep our loved ones close, no matter where they are. May you feel wrapped in a warmth of their memories, just as Tobias felt with his tuxedo. Once upon a time, as the sun set over the city and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, a small boy named Theo transforms into the remarkable Captain Pyjama. This transformation occurs the moment he slips into his special pajamas, which are adorned with a jumble of tiny hearts and symbols against light blue fabric. Captain Pyjama possesses an extraordinary ability. He can fly. With a quiet whoosh, he soars out of his bedroom window into the cool night air, ready to embark on his nightly mission. His task is simple yet profoundly important: to ensure that all his school friends experience joyful and peaceful dreams. As he glides silently through the city, Captain Pyjama visits the homes of his classmates, hovering gently outside their bedroom windows. With a sprinkle of dream dust and a whisper of magical words, he plants seeds of delightful and inspiring dreams in their minds. Whether it's an adventure on a pirate ship, a journey through outer space, or a picnic with talking animals, Captain Pyjama ensures that each child drifts off to sleep with a smile. Back at school, Theo keeps his superhero identity a secret. To his friends, he's just Theo, quiet, thoughtful, and a little mysterious. They often wondered why he always seemed so tired, never realizing that their peaceful nights are his doing. One night, as Theo, or rather Captain Pyjama, was making his rounds, he noticed his friend Tilly seemed particularly restless. Hovering outside her window, he paused, deciding on what special dream to cast away her restless sleep. In that moment, lost in thought, Captain Pyjama suddenly heard, "Theo?" Shocked, Captain Pyjama fell backwards and landed in the tree outside Tilly's window.
It is you!
Tilly exclaimed excitedly.
You're the one who's been giving me all these wonderful dreams.
Captain Pyjama slowly pulled down his eye mask to reveal a sheepish Theo.
I won't tell anybody,
Tilly said.
But maybe you should get some sleep too.
And so, dear listener, Theo, as Captain Pyjama, taught us that small acts of kindness, often unseen, can have a profound impact on those around us. He showed us that you don't need to be recognized to make a difference, and that the greatest heroes are sometimes the ones who fly under the radar. Good night, little dreamer. As you tuck yourself into bed, think of Captain Pyjama flying through the night, spreading joy and sweet dreams. May you wake up refreshed and ready to face the day with a smile, just like Theo's friends. Sleep well, knowing that in the world of dreams, we can all fly a little and be heroes in our own way. Once upon a time, in a small town filled with friendly faces and laughter echoing through the streets, there lived a young boy named Oliver. Oliver was a spirited child with a mischievous streak. Always full of energy and sometimes a little too boisterous. One sunny afternoon, Oliver was playing in the garden with his friends, running around and enjoying a game of tag. Amidst the excitement, Oliver shouted a phrase he had heard somewhere without really understanding what it meant. "Big bum!" His voice rang out a little too loud, just as his grandmother, Mrs. Thompson, was passing by with her old friend, Mrs. Wilson. Mrs. Thompson, a gentle soul with a firm belief in manners and proper conduct, was taken aback by Oliver's words. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as Mrs. Wilson raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Oliver!" Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, her voice a mix of shock and disappointment. Oliver, realizing he had attracted unwanted attention, stopped in his tracks. His face turned a shade of red to match his grandmother's. "Yes, Grandma?" he responded, a nervous quiver in his voice. "Those words are not appropriate," Mrs. Thompson said, her tone serious but caring. "You have a dirty mouth and you need to go wash it out this instant." Confused but obedient, Oliver trotted into the house and into the bathroom. He remembered his grandmother's words literally, and, with the earnestness only a child could muster, he picked up a bar of soap. Hesitantly, he licked it, expecting to cleanse his mouth of the naughty word he had uttered. The taste was awful, bitter and biting, and Oliver's face puckered in disgust. Ew! The soap did not taste like it smelled, sweet and floral, but rather like a punishment distilled into a flavour. He quickly rinsed his mouth out with water, but the soapy taste lingered, a vivid reminder of his misstep. Oliver walked back outside to his grandmother, his expression a mix of remorse and soap-induced grimace. "Grandma, I washed my mouth out with soap," he confessed, hoping she would understand his literal interpretation. Mrs. Thompson, trying hard not to chuckle at her grandson's interpretation, knelt down to his level. "Oh, my dear boy, I didn't mean for you to actually use soap, but let this be a lesson about choosing our words carefully," she explained, softly giving him a hug to take away the sting of the soap and the situation. "Words have power, Oliver," she continued, her eyes looking with his. "They can make people laugh or hurt them, make friends or push them away. What you say matters just as much as what you do." Oliver nodded, the lesson sinking in deeper than any soap could cleanse. He promised his grandmother that he would think before he spoke, to use his words that wouldn't require any sort of washing out. And so, dear listener, Oliver learned a valuable lesson that sunny afternoon, not just about the taste of soap, but about the impact of his words. He became more mindful of what he said, ensuring his words were as clean as the mouth he now knew not to wash with soap. Good night, little dreamer. As you drift off to sleep, remember Oliver's story. May your words always be kind and thoughtful, and may you speak with care and respect. Sleep well, knowing that each word you choose can be a gift rather than something that needs washing out. Once upon a time, in a lush, vibrant jungle filled with life, there lived a kind-hearted elephant named Ella. Ella was loved by all the jungle animals for her gentle spirit and caring nature. However, Ella had one small problem that caused quite a big disturbance. She snored extremely loudly. Every night, as the stars twinkled brightly above, Ella's snoring would begin. It started as gentle rumbles, but soon grew into thunderous roars that echoed throughout the jungle. The noise was so loud that it kept all the other animals awake, tossing and turning in their sleep. Night after night, various animals would set out with the intention of gently waking Ella, hoping to finally get some rest. The sleepy lion would start on his way, only to find a cozy spot and drift back to sleep mid-journey. The tired monkey would swing through the branches towards Ella, but would soon curl up on a branch and nod off. Even the swift deer, determined as she was, would stop to rest by the riverbank and fall asleep to the sound of the water. One morning, after yet another noisy night, Ella woke up and stretched her large limbs. To her surprise, she found herself surrounded by all her jungle friends, sleeping soundly with little smiles on their faces. Realizing that her snoring had led them all here, but prevented them from waking her, Ella felt a mix of amusement and guilt. Wanting to make it up to them, Ella thought of a way to let her friends have a little extra sleep. She carefully positioned her enormous ears to block the bright morning sun, casting a large, cool shadow over her snoozing friends. Under the gentle shade provided by Ella's ears, the animals enjoyed a few more hours of peaceful slumber. When the animals finally awoke, refreshed and grateful for the extra sleep, Ella apologized for her nightly disturbances. "I'm so sorry for keeping everyone awake," she said earnestly. "I've thought of a solution. Tonight, I will try sleeping with my trunk pointing upwards. Hopefully, that will quiet my snoring."
The animals chuckled and thanked Ella for her thoughtful gesture. They were touched by her efforts to make things right and appreciated her creativity in solving the problem. That evening, as Ella slept with her trunk raised high, the jungle was quieter. Her snoring was much softer, and all the animals could finally enjoy a peaceful night's sleep. Ella had kept her promise, and the jungle was once again a tranquil place at night. And so, dear listener, Ella and her friends learned that problems could be solved with a little ingenuity and a lot of kindness. The jungle not only returned to its peaceful state at night, but also grew stronger in friendship and understanding. Good night, little dreamer. As you close your eyes and drift into sleep, think of Ella and her friends in the quiet jungle, all snuggled up under the stars. May your night be as peaceful as theirs, filled with dreams of friendship and clever solutions. Sleep well, knowing that even the loudest snore can be softened with a bit of thought and care.